Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WABAN. I am your host, Nim, and I am joined by our co-host, Cub, but we also have a guest today, the YouTube channel Film Eye, the person from there. Do you want us to just call you Film Eye? Well, I don't know. What do you want to go by?
Film Eye, Jay. It all works.
Jay. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I wasn't actually sure what your actual name was. So I was like, Jay. Okay, Jay. There you go.
Jay what?
Just call you I, just so
I mean, that works too. It's cool.
Right. So anyways, the YouTuber Film Eye is here, and just to start off, can you give just a brief description of you and your YouTube channel and all that stuff, whatever else?
Yeah, can do. So basically, my name is Jay. I run the YouTube channel Film Eye, which has been going on for, what is it now, a year and a half or so. Started it basically at the beginning of the first lockdown to express my thoughts on film, because I have an absolutely terrible capacity for speaking publicly, so might as well do it online where no one can get back to me unless I let them.
Right.
Safe behind the screen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it basically started out as just expressing my love for movies and what are my favorite movies, and then it just sort of transitioned into an analysis channel where I just delved into what I liked and why I liked it, and what I didn't like and why I didn't like it. And recently I posted my first short film on that, because what I actually want to be is a filmmaker, not just a YouTuber.
Right.
And that's on there. I also recently published, I took a long break from posting videos to focus on that short film, which ended up not being that great, but I did learn a lot from it. And then I made a video quickly in a few months ago, and now I'm working on a more long form thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said that was your first short film you ever did?
Yes, it is the first one. It is the first fiction I've ever made. I have worked on documentaries before, but they're not things that they are not directed by me, and I have not been given permission to post on my channel. So this is technically my first film. So
the first film made by you. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I have a few short films I've made that are on my channel that I've done. I mean, a lot of it was college projects and stuff, but yeah. So, do you have any plans for movies anytime soon? What the next one is going to be, or anything like that?
Yeah. I'm studying film production right now. That is what I do on a day-to-day basis, and it's why I can't dedicate as much time as I'd like to this YouTube channel. So currently, I'm making a music video, which should be coming out around January, beginnings of February, sometime there. And then I am working on my first big film, so to speak, not long form, but it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay,
it's
so
not
decent.
It's definitely not.
Still a short film, but longer than.
First time I'm working, first of all, with a team that I have selected and has not been assigned to me, because the previous one was university.
It was
this is also university,
project,
but exactly, and this is also university, but I've picked who I want to work with. So I've got an amazing team behind me, and that should be coming out May, June, something like that. It's going to take a lot more time. Don't hold me to that, because it might go to festivals and then it'll take a lot more time.
Oh yeah, that would actually be great. Yeah,
it would be so good.
I don't think no films short films I've done have ever tried to submit to festivals and stuff. I never thought they were all that great. They were very much learning experiences more than anything of and just literally mostly having just either classmates acting in it, or family and friends or something. Just
I know how that feels. I've worked with several classmates, and you do what you can. At the end of the day, every film, you said it's a learning experience, but every film should be a learning experience, and if it's not, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I actually did watch your the short film that's on your channel. So
Yeah, it's a rough project. We had a lot of production issues due to COVID, due to actors quitting right before shooting and replacing them last minute, reshoots that had to be done. Basically, what you see in the final film was all done in one day when we initially shot for a whole week. So.
Which I can definitely tell. You can, and I don't know if I can say I can tell, but like it's all very much like one. Like there's only like one real location, or like I guess two, kind of, because there's like the opening and the ending. But
yeah, exactly. So like initially we had 4 locations throughout the film, with several different setups. Our actress was there the entire time. She was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But our original actor quit the day before we started shooting.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And in the first draft, I stepped in and acted in it, and it was absolutely god-awful. Because I'm not an actor, and I can't do that. But also we had issues with technical issues. So most of the shots weren't in focus and so on. And eventually I just said, look, we have to shoot again. We can't get the original locations back, so we have to reshoot basically everything. So might as well just get an actor, any actor, and reshoot. And we did. And we worked with Adam and Emily. Emily, thankfully, came back to work with us, and she was fantastic again. So yeah, again, we just shot it in one day, cobbled it together in a week, and there it is. Absolutely a learning experience, though I wouldn't say the product justifies it.
I mean, you got it done.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought generally it looked good. Like, the lighting, there was a cool kind of lighting you did with like the like orange lighting and the blue mixed together. It was kind of cool, and like the way it reflected on the faces stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff, I thought. I mean, it's very simple. It's a very simple thing, story, like little thing, but it's
It was a film that the original version, if I like with some of the shots that we got originally, they look really, really good. It's just the fact that I couldn't use them anymore because now it was a different actor and the other shots were out of focus. But it did allow me to experiment a lot with color, which is something I'd not really done in documentary for obvious reasons.
I can definitely tell that you really put a lot of thought into the color for sure.
I was having a lot of fun with lighting in that, and
I can definitely tell that. Yeah,
these next 2 films that I'm working on are going to be absolutely fantastically lit. Yeah. Whether they end up being good films is a completely different thing, but they will look great.
We'll find out. Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, it definitely looks a lot. I definitely think it's better than my first short film. So mine now, when I did my first short film, I was, I think, just starting out college, and I hadn't even had any like video classes, because like my college wasn't necessarily film school. It was more just video production in general. And I hadn't even had any like of my video classes yet. I just decided to make like a Christmas themed short film because it was around Christmas time, and I was like, sure, why not? Because I want to be a filmmaker, might as well start somewhere. And it turned out really bad. All the lighting is horrible, everything. I mean, it was like I shot it on my phone, just kind of whatever locations I had.
It's a first film. It's never like if you expect to make THX 1138 on the first go, you're just kidding yourself. Like it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, I mean, for something like that, you need a decent budget too. Like when you have nothing, it's like
famous like short films from directors, which they say are their first film. They never are. Like they're just the one they decided to publish publicly, so to speak.
As their actual first one,
it's never the actual first one. Steven Spielberg didn't just fall out of bed, fall out of college, and just do Jaws. Like there was.
Yeah, it was just like, exactly. There was a lot of years of practice and training in the art form before, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now I'm like, I have like this film that I have sort of a script for that I wrote that I'm going to be working on next within the next year. It's like a horror film, so it's like supposed to come out on Halloween next year, hopefully, if I actually get it done. It's a big thing. It's going to be like at least a half hour long, probably. So it's like the longest thing I've ever done. But
yeah,
you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah.
What vibes are we going for? What kind of horror are we going for?
Definitely more like a psychological horror. So I don't really want to get into a lot of detail on like the basic concept, just because like that maybe you learn more about that when a trailer comes out, and whatever, who knows, we'll see what happens. I don't really know.
The mystery.
I don't know fully yet, but the title is going to be Whispers. I can say that.
Sounds very, very cool.
Yeah. So
any films you can mention to me as like, it's like this, like to get a sense of where we're headed for this, not plot wise, just general vibe and tone.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's just very.
I'll live with the intrigue then. I'll just wait.
It's it's very much psychological horror, like that's one of the main things you can say. There you go. With possible, well, I mean, with most horror films, there's got to be some death, so there's some death in it too, some murder.
Yeah, if no one dies, there's no point, is there? That's the fun of it.
If no one dies, it's not. Is it really horror? Probably not, right?
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I actually have like there's like a small sort of like startup production company that I'm like going to be doing work with soon, and I'm actually going to try to pitch the film to them. It's like so I can actually get help with the production, so it's not just me just kind of doing, actually get maybe some funding and some. Actually hire actors instead of just being like, hey, get my brother or something to act in it, like,
hey mom, can you do like a voice for me real quick?
Right, yeah, exactly.
In my experience, working with like finding actors, because like I had to find an actor quick, for every filmmaker who's thinking, oh, I have to cast my brother in this, there's 7 rising stars, quote unquote, who really, really, really want to do it for you. Please let them. If you get on like websites for actors, there's like hundreds of them who haven't had an agent yet, and with a bit of like critical thinking and some interviews, you'll find one who's generally fine.
Exactly.
That's what I'm doing now.
Y'all want to make something, so get them all in there.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because like generally, like one of the main things like with me, I know is like when it comes to filmmaking, that type of stuff, I hate dealing with like the business side of things.
Yeah, like you really want to get into the creative side. I
want to do the creative side. I want to do the art, but in order to do that, you have to go through some of the business of hiring people, finding a way to fund it, all this advertising, like marketing it and stuff. And it's like, I don't care about that. I just want to make the thing.
I care about making it an experience people are hoping to see. Like I do like marketing, and it's done well, which is very rare these days. But I do care about like building a sense of expectation and the fact showing to people that like this is something I've been working for months on, maybe years on. Hopefully I'm really excited to show it to people. Hopefully you will be. Have little tidbits.
There's definitely part of that I like, but overall I'm like, I don't know. It's like one of those things where like people, even like my YouTube channel and like YouTube videos in general, it's like I always like look up at advice on like your YouTube channel, and they're like, oh yeah, try to talk about things that are relevant, try to time your videos based on this, and like all these strategies, and I don't care about any of that. I'm just kind of like, I'm not gonna keep up with all that.
Very annoying to me.
Yeah. I'm very much like, I'm just gonna do whatever video I want, you know.
Yeah, exactly. My when I first started out, and people were saying like, "Oh, do what's like relevant at the time. Make a video on like, the Marvel movies and so on." And like, I find the Marvel movies entertaining enough, but not to the point where I'm going to spend a few weeks making a video on it, by which time whatever I'm talking about will no longer be relevant.
Well, right. And it's like if you had a really interesting take on one of those movies that you really wanted to make a video about, make that video. But if you don't, then what's the point? You're just, at that point, you're just making another in the millions of videos that people have already made, unless you're like doing something interesting or like unique with it, See, that's what happened to me with my initial, I got flooded with comments when I first started out. I think it was after the Dark video and The Shape of Water, and people were constantly coming in to say like, what's your thoughts on Euphoria? Because I referenced it a couple times. Like, what are your thoughts on Euphoria? What's your take on Euphoria? And you should make a video on it. And I'm like, I don't have anything new to say about Euphoria. I think it's an excellent show. That's about where it ends. I don't have any particular hot takes or interesting perspectives on it. I just think it's really, really good. You just don't have much more to say about it. It's the same as like they keep saying like make a follow-up to the Dark video talking about season 3, because like when I made the trailer for season 3, it just dropped and that was the final season. And I was like, what am I going to say? I still think the same thing. I still think it's one of the best science fiction shows yet. Right. And my thoughts haven't changed with this new season. It was just as good as the other ones because it was basically a direct, like it was mapped out from the very first episode. Like they followed it through and it works.
Get more than you have.
What do they want from me?
I see.
Although I think we're about to get pretty lucky with that kind of stuff because we've been trying to do gaming stuff. And I believe the next game that we're going to be doing, because we already have a bunch pre-recorded, is Hollow Knight. But Hollow Knight Silksong comes out February, apparently. Unless it gets delayed again. So that might time very well.
Right? Maybe if you release it like a few days before release or after release, you might get swept up with that.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
Tap into the zeitgeist a little.
Not that it's like on purpose. That just happened to be one of the ones we were going to do.
No. It's just like it's totally a coincidence. He says, looking at his calendar.
When exactly is it? No.
Well, okay. How that happened was I noticed a ton of Silksong stuff coming up on like my feeds and everything, and so I was like, oh yeah, I should get him to play that. Not actually knowing that it's coming out pretty soon.
Right. Yeah. So basically what we're doing, in case you don't know, with the gaming thing is, so like our sort of dynamic on this podcast is that like I'm the movie guy who knows a lot about movies and stuff, wants to be a filmmaker.
Casual viewer.
And he's just the casual viewer, So like a lot of the movies we've talked about were movies that I've seen before that he hasn't. There's some that neither of us have seen that we've talked about, but like, some of them were ones that was like, I was kind of showing to him and we were talking about. But then, so our gaming thing is going to be sort of the flip of that because he's the big gamer and like I haven't, I've played some video games, but not, I've never been huge into it. So it's like, it's mostly going to be. Yeah, I played Minecraft. Yeah, the Lego games. Come on. And then it's like I play the game for the first time and like I'm reacting to it for the first time, and then he's sort of watching, just kind of commenting with me, because he's played it before. He's the expert.
That's actually kind of funny because I was like trying to think of like, if I delved into gaming, what would I talk about? What is the like core thing about gaming that I find particularly interesting? And there's the whole aspect of like interactive storytelling because I'm a very story person. Like I it needs to have like a story that's going on. I don't like, for example, first person shooters or like online games too much because there's not much to delve into story wise. But then I realized that the only real series of games that I would want to really talk about, because I think they're some of the best ever made, are the Batman games, with which I'm going to talk about when I talk about the animated series, because it's basically the same team and voice actors.
Right.
So I was like,
right.
why the hell would I talk about the Arkham series when I'm talking about the show that inspired the Arkham series? Like,
yeah.
And so I'll probably have to record a gameplay for that. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, that's right. Because they got like Kevin Conroy for those games too, and did they get Mark Hamill? Yeah.
Yes, they did.
For
he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
The great thing about the Arkham games to me is that it is like, you know, the animated series started the whole DC animated universe with Justice League.
Which is amazing.
Superman.
One of my
it's fantastic.
That was my childhood right there. That was my entire childhood right there.
Absolutely. And it should have been the template for the movies. I've been saying this for years. But
well, yeah.
But that said, people were saying, oh, we want to see these characters brought to life in a gritty, realistic manner. Go play the Arkham games, which is literally just that, without losing the fun of it. Because like that's my issue. Nolan trilogy being amazing and all that, but my issue with comic book movies is that they take themselves way too seriously these days. Like, embrace how kind of dumb it is, and you'll have a lot more fun with it. Like Batman Returns, which is a really dark movie by Tim Burton. It's a really dark movie, but it's so silly, and it knows it's silly, and it has a lot of fun with it, so it works. Like, it knows what it is, and it knows how to play to its strengths. Yeah. And then you have the Nolan films, which, despite being really good, I don't consider them that great of Batman films, because they take away so much to make it realistic that you kind of lose some of the essence of it. Fantastic films, great character explorations, but is Heath Ledger's Joker really the Joker? Right. Or is it just Nolan's Joker? Yeah. So like, in the context of those films, they're fantastic. If you take him out of them, they don't work. If you put him in with another Batman, it wouldn't work. And that's my issue right now with the whole No Way Home thing, where they're bringing back villains we've already seen. And I'm just like, I don't want to see Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus without Sam Raimi directing them. Like, it wouldn't, like, they work that way because of how they're directed. Yeah,
that is like a weird thing with that movie. Like, I'm excited because I love like those Spider-Man movies. It's like really cool and weird that they're like doing that, because like it's something you would never imagine ever happening. Like, exactly. But like, at the same time, it's excited. Like
I'm so excited to see them again. Right. It's just I don't want them to lose the charm of the original. And currently in these trailers, I'm not seeing that charm that much. I'm just seeing the actors playing the characters. But the writing, the cinematography, and the way they're presented, like, it doesn't feel like the original Doctor. It feels like Alfred Molina reprising Dr. Octopus for like a completely different project that has no relation. It feels like
not the same character, but it's the same actor. It like feels like a different
It's like when the Doctor Who show does like children in need and charity specials, where like the Doctor shows up and it's like, it's cute, but we're not meant to, like, it's not the Doctor. It's just, you know, like, you're just supposed to take it. You're supposed to take it with a grain of salt. It's for this particular thing. That's what this feels like. Like, it doesn't ring true to me.
That makes sense. I can definitely understand that.
This is a little off topic, but I just want to point out the difference between that we were talking about the actual like heavily invested movies and the casual viewer, because you guys are talking about your sophisticated opinions about this new Spider-Man movie, and I'm just like, Spider-Man go flip, I watch.
that is also true. Sometimes you have to get out of that mindset and just think, oh man,
just have fun with it.
Explosions look great.
Just be like, just have fun with it.
I do get very invested in things, and I find myself like, I can't watch action movies anymore.
Now, speaking of Spider-Man, though, there's a recent trailer that just came out
Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, apparently. So I guess it's going to be a 2-part thing.
Or many parts. We don't know how many parts.
Oh, that's true. It could be more than 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually really excited for, just because Into the Spider-Verse is like probably my favorite Spider-Man movie.
I mean, it's like, you know, nostalgia put aside, it's the best one.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Like, you know, the Sam Raimi films are charming, but they are really dumb. They're intentionally so. I choose to believe that, but they are really dumb.
Yeah.
And then the Mark Webb ones are just fever dreams. And then you have the MCU ones, which are just, they're decent enough. They're just way too caught up in their own, in the lore of the MCU.
Well, I think the thing with those ones is they're very much, it's about how you would imagine an MCU version of Spider-Man. Like,
exactly. Like
it can't be the real Spider-Man that you know and love, because it's supposed to fit within the MCU. So it's like, not.
That's kind of true, but then you have to consider, like, in the comics, Spider-Man is integrated into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, but
it's just the fact that with the MCU, it's so intrinsically connected to the rest. You can't watch Far From Home, for example, without having seen Endgame, because it won't add up, because it directly follows the consequences of Tony Stark's death. Mm-hmm. So you can't, like, it's meant to be watched. The MCU are not movies; they are episodes in a TV show at this point. You can't just watch which one you like. Like,
which is fine. I mean, it's a very interesting way to do like a movie series. You know, it's something that's very
it's clearly done intentionally. It's clearly done intentionally. But that said, it does reduce the inherent value of the individual characters, so to speak. Like, this Spider-Man is intrinsically attached to the MCU. You cannot view him on his own. And now he's getting even more like spread thin from like being his own interpretation, because now we're bringing back characters from the other Spider-Men. Yeah. So, and particularly so, something that's really angering me is we're bringing back Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Electro, Sam, all these characters, which this version of Spider-Man has no connection to, even with like a version of them in his world. So these are complete nobodies to him. They're not like variants. They're just complete nobodies to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because he's never met a Green Goblin. So he doesn't. Why should he care if a different one shows up? You know?
Yeah.
We've lost the dynamic between hero and villain because it's a completely new hero.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see how and if they're gonna make it work.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one that I'm actually like excited for, because I feel like this year a lot of the MCU movies I wasn't that interested in.
I mean, Black Widow was absolutely pointless.
Yeah, so. I didn't watch any of the new MCU movies this year so far, which is there's like 4 this year, which is just so much.
Oh yeah, there's Eternals, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and what's the other one?
Eternals.
No, I said
Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's coming out before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's coming out before the end of the year. But yeah, out of all of those, like Shang-Chi was enjoyable. I enjoyed Shang-Chi. I recommend it.
Yeah, that one I want to see, because that was interesting, because like I remember seeing trailers for it and I was like, oh yeah, they're bringing in a new character. Like I know nothing about the character from the comics or anything, so I'm just kind of like, oh cool. And I wasn't that interested, but then everybody was saying it was great, so I was like, maybe I should have seen it.
It's very much MCU dipping its toe into martial arts movies, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like there's a lot of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in there. That said, if you want to watch a really, really good martial arts movie, you're better off watching Crouching Tiger. But if you want to see the MCU just experiment with it very lightly, you can watch this and have a fun time. Plus, the one thing I am very thankful for is the 2 leads, Shang-Chi and I can't remember the character's name, but she's played by Awkwafina. They're not romantically linked in any way, and that's so refreshing to me. Like, that's good. We don't need a love interest. Like, Shang-Chi just doesn't have a love interest and he doesn't feel like he needs one. And I'm so thankful for that because I could not care less about the love anymore in the MCU.
Yeah. It's like everybody has at least one love interest at one point. And
and the minute they become quote unquote official, they lose any agency. Like Pepper Potts, for example, in the original Iron Man movies, I like her. She's no nonsense. She does what she wants. You know, she helps. Done.
She also helps, like, sort of ground the character of
Tony
Stark, because he's
like, she calls him out on his bullshit.
Right, like, exactly, because he's going around just being this big douchebag to everyone, and she's like,
like one thing the MCU took a long time to admit, but one thing the MCU kind of did badly, in my opinion, is like Tony starts out as a douchebag, and then the movies go on and we start treating him heroically, but really he's still being a very, very bad person. Like, he's saving the world and so on, but he's still a self-centered, you know, douchebag. And it took up until like the Spider-Man movies for the movies to like even lightly touch on it again. The fact that, you know, he's ignoring Peter, he flirts with Aunt May without like Peter letting him, and Aunt May also reciprocating.
Also, isn't he with Pepper at that point too? Technically,
exactly. Like, what? I mean, they split up. They split up in Homecoming. They were split up, but then he offers her the ring again.
Oh, like, that's right. I honestly forget like where they were together and where they weren't. Honestly, like,
exactly. But the issue for me is the minute Pepper Pot becomes Tony's love interest, that's all she is. That's all she is.
Right.
She's there to emotionally support him. And Pepper herself gets no more characterization beyond that point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Same with, I feel like that's going to happen to Zendaya as MJ, because she's very likable in Homecoming. She's very likable in No Way Home because she has this whole thing. But now with the amount of characters they're going to have to fit into No Way Home, what else is she going to do except just be there for him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and I was really excited after Far From Home because they were like, oh, we're in a relationship. And I was like, cool, we can address relationship problems and like building a relationship with a superhero with a character like MJ who actually has a bit of personality to her. But now it seems like the entire plot of the movie is resetting that, and we're not gonna we'll see how it pans out, but I feel like MJ's gonna get lost in the background a bit.
Yeah, one interesting thing about that movie too, that like when I found out that they were going the whole like alternate universe route with the movie was weird, was like, because at the end of Far From Home, I was very interested in what they were going to do next, right? Because of the way they set it up. Like, so they were, you know, the two of them were starting to date. She knew that he was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But then also suddenly everyone found out that he was Spider-Man. And that was an interesting setup. I was like, what are they going to do with this? So it seems weird that they're suddenly like, okay, now we're doing this alternate universe story instead of like...
I feel like what they're gonna do, like, is they're gonna backtrack a lot, because like revealing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, especially this early on in Spider-Man's tenure in the MCU, because he's just been signed on to another trilogy, right?
Okay.
Yeah, like it feels like are we really gonna change up the Spider-Man status quo that much? Especially when we're not even halfway into his MCU appearances, not including his appearances in other movies. Like, are we really going to have the entire world know who he is? This movie, I feel like either this movie or maybe even the next one will reset it so that no one remembers. Because, like, that's the point. That's what he goes to Doctor Strange for.
Right, yeah, and that's what ends up
like
messing everything up.
At the end of the movie, we are going to return to the status quo of Peter gets shit on by the universe. MJ might be... I feel like they'll end up together because otherwise Far From Home is kind of pointless.
Right.
Who knows what Ned is going to do? I love Ned. I want to see more of him, so he's hoping. Flash Thompson will hopefully become a character that's actually engaging because at the minute he's kind of the punching bag of the movies. Like he gets bullied more than Peter.
Right.
And then like we will reset. Like they can't just reveal that. My only requirements for No Way Home are more J. Jonah Jameson, please. I love J.
Yeah,
Jameson.
obviously.
Absolutely.
You can never
He's
have
the
too much
best.
J.K. Simmons.
We can. Speaking of J.K. Simmons, have you watched Ghostbusters Afterlife? This is a complete change of topic, but I have to say it. He has the most random, quick cameo I've ever seen. I know J.K. Simmons is like known for like making like small appearances to like land a joke or whatever, but it is so out of nowhere and it goes nowhere that it kind of made me like, I don't know if that was the joke or the joke that they actually do in the movie, but it was funnier to me that they brought in J.K. Simmons, put him in makeup and so on, and then he's out like literally half a minute after being introduced. It's so funny to me. That said, Ghostbusters Afterlife is worth watching. It is a good movie.
It is? Okay. I wasn't sure because I was seeing trailers and I was like, so they're resetting the Ghostbusters franchise again? Wait.
No,
what?
it's not a reboot. It's
not. Okay.
It is ignoring the 2016 film and it is following up the original two movies. Right.
Gotcha.
It is set. So basically, you know that Harold Ramis, the actor who played Egon, he passed away a few years back.
Yeah.
So basically, this is sort of a tribute to him, and it follows.
Okay.
It's instead of being like a New York growing business comedy, it is a family finding itself comedy about Harold Ramis's character Egon's grandkids, and it's. Actually decently done. You know, we're out of New York. It feels like very homage, like it keeps like referencing the original movie, but because it's made by the son of the original director and it's a tribute to the original actor and so on, it knows, you know, like it's done with heart. It's not just, you know, trying to hit you over the head with nostalgia. It's more a family finding this concept, and it's done well. The characters have a lot of chemistry. Paul Rudd is really good. There's this new actor I've not seen before who plays one of the kids, and he's fantastic. I can't wait to see more of him. He was so funny, and he has a podcast in the film. And you know, fun fact. And it's really well done. And I'm not even the biggest fan of the original film, but I loved it. I had such a good time with it. I watched it last night, so
maybe I'll watch it at some point.
I do recommend it.
Yeah, because I remember it was like there was like trailers for it even before like COVID happened and everything. So I think it was supposed to come out a while ago, and then it didn't.
Like a lot of movies that came out. This you said earlier that like so many movies from the MCU came out. Yeah, so many movies came out because nothing could come out last year.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because they went a whole year with nothing. Yeah.
Like what did we get last year? Trolls World Tour, and that's about it. It was a pretty dry spell.
Right. Yeah, that does make sense. Anyways, let's see what else we can bring up. Oh, so I was actually going to ask this. So your latest video I did watch was talking about the Dune 2000, which was like a mini series, right?
Yes,
about Dune. Yeah.
The title is not Dune 2000. It's just the year of release. I just needed to specify that because people are going to think it's like a weird, you know, sort of deviation, like how they do Nightmare on Elm Street 3000. It's set in the future, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So are you asking me about my thoughts on the original show, or my thoughts on or the new film?
So I was going to ask, because I remember in the video at the end, you were like, I'm about to go see the new movie. And I was, because I've never like read the book. I've never watched like the older movie, the like David Lynch movie. I've never watched this show, but I did go see the movie because I was actually interested in seeing it. So I was just curious what your thoughts on that were. Right.
So it was an interesting experience because I wrote the 2001. So the way it happened was I was not really that interested in Dune until I heard Denis Villeneuve was attached to it. And Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite movies.
Yes, I love that movie.
Which, speaking of which, you can see influences of that on my short film. There's a lot of Blade Runner in there.
Especially with the colors, I think. Like
precisely.
that red and blue colors, not red, orange and blue colors together is very...
Yeah. And having an AI character that is not just AI. It is an actual personality there.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Wish we could have gotten Ana de Armas to play her, but unfortunately we were too important and we decided to reject her.
Right, of course.
But so basically I heard Denis Villeneuve was attached to it and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really sold me on going to see it was him.
Yeah, because he's like, despite me not actually being that much of a fan of the rest of his films, I think they're all fantastic movies. I just don't connect with them as much. Because of my connection to Blade Runner, I was like, I need to know. I need to know, you know?
Right.
And because of my inherent obsession with how things work, I was like, oh, there's original stuff for this. There's a book. And this is meant to be the new Lord of the Rings, which is my favorite film trilogy of all time. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to read all the books. I'm going to watch all the adaptations before watching the movie.
Oh, really?
So I went on this absolute Dune binge. So I didn't read all the books. Turns out there's way too many.
There's a lot, yeah.
I read the original, I read the sequel, and I read one of the prequel books. So I got, very well informed of how the original text works. And then I watched the 1984 film, which I thought, as an adaptation, is absolutely terrible. It is a very bad movie. And even David Lynch there's versions of the film where David Lynch is not credited, like he didn't want to be credited as the director.
Right. Because it's very different than the type of movie you typically direct anyways. It's like weird,
It feels, it doesn't feel like him, and yet it feels like him. His like fingerprints are all over the movie.
Right.
Visually, the movie's fantastic. Like, absolutely. Like, I won't lie, I did like the new film. I think on a design and like creativity standpoint, I almost like the 1984 film, just because of how crazy it goes.
It's more wacky, whereas the new one's more. The new one feels more like what a realistic design of this type of
the new one
sci-fi stuff would look like.
The new one feels very stripped back, and I'll get into that in a second. But then I watched the 2000 show, which thoughts on that are in the video, so we won't get into that. It was my basic thoughts are: good adaptation sticks too close to the text, right? It stays too close. Because Dune, when I read it, I was like, how the hell are they going to adapt this? This, like, literally half of the book is just inner monologues inside the characters' heads. But there's not really, like, the action scenes are mostly talked about after they happen. You don't see it, so to speak, in the book.
Okay, gotcha.
Like it's more like someone walks into a room and catches you up on what's happened. It's a very what's the word? It's a very what's the word? I've completely gonna. It's very ethereal, sort of set in the mind. Like cerebral. It's very cerebral rather than plot. There's not much actually happens. It's a lot more about how the characters react and what it means for the universe that it's created. So I was very interested to see how Villeneuve would adapt that. And the answer is by really stripping a lot of the side content and the conversations and so on, and leaving it to the bare bones of the plot, enough to make it understandable and deep, but not enough to overwhelm. And initially, when I first saw it, I was kind of underwhelmed by it. I thought, okay, I thought visually it looks great, fantastic. That said, it looked a little colorless. The acting was phenomenal. I thought the acting was absolutely pitch perfect, especially Rebecca Ferguson, who I think should get an Oscar nomination for her performance as Lady Jessica. She is absolutely brilliant. The precision in how she does it is absolutely insane. But the majority of the film, I was thinking, oh, okay, we skip that. Oh, okay, we skip that. And like,
Right.
it's not like we're skipping events that are important. Like that, these are things that we don't need to see, but we lose a lot of the nuance of what's going on. And then, so like after I watched it the first time, I was mostly just kind of underwhelmed. But then I watched it again with, like, I took a week to think on it, and I realized, Jay, you have to stop thinking about the book.
Right.
What is Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, as a movie? And I went again and I tried to view it with completely fresh eyes, because, like, again, I'd gone on this Dune sort of obsession for a few months, so I knew the text inside out, and I wasn't thinking about it from the perspective of the outsider. I was thinking about it from the perspective of someone who knows every single detail, you know?
Right.
So I went into it again, and having watched it again, it is a fantastic adaptation of the text in a way that makes it understandable, relatable. The music is absolutely spectacular. And now that I was a bit farther away from the other versions that I'd seen, the visuals were much, like, I could appreciate why it looked that way. Because, like, my main concern was, like, it looks great framing and what they're showing, but this, like, the colors seem a bit muted. But like, watching it again with, like, trying not to think of the originals, you get much more lost in this world. And now, long speech aside, I've come around to think of it as a very, very good adaptation.
Yeah. Okay.
That said, it is not Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings is still the best movie trilogy of all time. Anyone
I mean,
can
yeah,
fight me on
that's
that.
I mean, I don't think many people are going to fight you on that, honestly.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think would ever people might fight you on that with is maybe the original Star Wars trilogy, which
Yeah, but then you have to consider that the third one isn't that good.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. That's always
is-
my thing is, like, when I think about that, I'm like, see, the original Star Wars, great. Empire Strikes Back, one of the greatest movies ever made to me, at least in, you know, one of my favorite movies of all time.
I agree.
And then Return of the Jedi, it's like, there's some good stuff there. And, like,
There's
the way
there's elements of greatness, but it's lost underneath the fur of the Ewoks.
yeah, it's that, and, like, there's a lot of the movie that's very much filler, where you're like, okay, it was clear that, like, there wasn't much of an idea of what the plot would be for the movie. It was like, okay, we need the final battle, we need the final confrontation.
It seems very clear that
let's waste time till we get to that.
Yeah, it seems very clear that the main focus was Luke, and that they didn't really know what to do with the other characters.
Right, yeah.
Because, like, you know, Han wanted to die. Like, you know, Harrison Ford wanted his character to die in Empire Strikes Back, and that would have been setting the stakes.
Right.
But they bring him back, but they didn't give him really anything to do.
Well, because it's like the whole first section of the movie is all about them bringing Han back, and then it's like, he's not important to the plot really for the rest of the movie. He's just kind of
exactly like the main thing of Return of the Jedi. It's not bad visually; it looks great. The effects are amazing. They're the best in the original trilogy, in my opinion.
Probably,
yeah. Like the actual like Jabba's palace looks and feels amazing. Like, there's a great sense of environment and all that. It's just the fact that the pacing is just all over the place. Like, we spend so long getting Han back, and then we're thrust into the plot, plot of, like, oh, there's a new Death Star, we have to destroy it. And it's like, oh, there's a sense of, like, urgency. But then we just spend, like, half an hour just milling about with the Ewoks.
Yeah, you're like, oh, like, it makes you feel like they're about to start the final battle, but it's like, oh, wait, there's still tons left of time that we need to fill in this movie. Whoops. We didn't come up with a full plot, so we'll just waste some time,
Yeah, like, I feel like what they could have done, you know, because I like to think of, like, how I would improve movies. Like, what I have issues, what would I do? I feel like I would have done is, like, you know, that scene where, like, you have Mon Mothma and she's like, many Bothans died to bring us this information. And first of all, what are Bothans? But second of all, why don't, instead of the Ewoks, we have Han and Leia trying to find out where the Death Star is being built, or what the plan is even. And we have Luke trying to find Vader to bring him to the light side, you know, like, on their separate, like, journeys. And then for the climax, it turns out Luke is on the Death Star independently, and the others are on the ground on Endor. Because there's another thing, like they keep saying like, oh, we have to destroy the Death Star, and whatever. Like, I don't think at any point Han and Leia ever mentioned Luke is there, or we think he's there. Like they completely ignore the fact that Lucas has just disappeared off the face of the Earth, or like Leia knows he's there, and she doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't try and say, like, we have to hold on for Luke or whatever. They're actively assaulting the Death Star, trying to destroy it, and Luke is stuck there. And it's just, like, I felt like if Luke was going on independently and the characters didn't know he was there, that would make more sense.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely other ways. Yeah. Because ultimately, once you get to the climax is honestly really good.
Yeah. Like
especially with Luke,
Vader,
and Palpatine, like that's great.
You know, like Ian McDiarmid is just so good.
Right.
The final battle looks like, you know, like the space battle looks fantastic. And despite my gripes with the Ewoks, the fight on the ground is fine. You know, I don't have thoughts on it. It's just the fact that there's that middle section of the movie where nothing happens. Like, we literally spent, I think it's like a minute and a half, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot when there's like a bunch of these segments with like C-3PO recounting the events of the original trilogy of like the other previous films, or like so long on the whole like, oh, they're gonna get eaten bit, and it's just like, come on, like let's move along, you know, guys.
What's crazy because it's like the first two movies, I think after those first two movies, which are like so really well paced, they're very well paced movies. Like and then
Empire
this
Strikes
one
Back is an amazing sequel, but to me, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, the first film, is a perfect adventure movie. It is,
for sure.
There's nothing wrong with it, and in fact, if you watch it independently of the rest, it still works because it was supposed to be one movie.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
Like it is the perfect. Like Empire Strikes Back is great, but the story doesn't end. You have to watch Return of the Jedi.
It's obviously the middle point of the story, right? Yeah,
and that is my one gripe with Empire Strikes Back. It's a great sequel, but because you have to watch Return of the Jedi after to understand it, that means you have to watch Return of the Jedi, which is just lesser than the other two. Not to the point that it's bad, it's just never reaches that height.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. But you know, it all comes down to opinion. Because like I know one of my friends, Return of the Jedi is her favorite of the Star Wars movies. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Like I get that. I completely.
But you know, just have their reasons. You know,
it's just the fact that I have a YouTube channel about film. So obviously, in my opinion, is way more important than everybody else.
Of course, yeah. That's obviously how that works, right?
I would like to legally classify that as sarcasm, so people don't attack me.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Make sure everybody knows it's a joke.
I'm just joking. I should have said it beforehand because they won't listen this far. But
they'll just like take a clip of your voice out of context. They already took a clip of your voice out of context and are posting it everywhere. Like, oh, this guy!
I can't wait for the absolute
pretentious prick.
I mean, I am a pretentious prick, but not.
I mean, just listen to his accent. But I don't know. The entire time I'm listening to you talk, I can understand why you're like what do you call it, essay YouTuber or whatever you want to call it.
Video essay.
Yeah, video essay. Because like you speak very well and you put your thoughts together very well. You're very good at the monologues, you know?
Yeah, I've been told.
Yeah.
I'm less good at conversation, so if you ever need to interrupt, please go ahead.
Yeah. You're good. But yeah, no, I think that's always that, like what we were just talking about with Return of the Jedi. That's the main reason why I always put Lord of the Rings as my favorite movie trilogy of all time, even though Star Wars is like much more of like a big thing for me because of, you know, just nostalgia, and like it's probably the original Star Wars trilogy is probably the one, like the three movies I've seen more than any other movie ever, like but I still have to put Lord of the Rings above as a better trilogy because it's like each movie
it's just so well done.
Is great, and it's like they all work together to create one story. So like,
it's
perfectly.
Yeah, like it. Everyone complains about like how it is sometimes too long, and like there's plot elements that don't make sense, and I'm like, yeah, but these are like, how would you shorten it? You know, like what would you cut? You can't really. The great thing about Lord of the Rings is it finds the absolute essentials of the story to tell you. Like you can't really cut the majority of it, because not only will you just lose a lot of the nuance, which is needed, but also the film would then lose the sense of pacing. Like, it's like, you know, the Two Towers and Return of the King aside, which start to get a bit slow at some points, like Fellowship of the Ring is so well paced. Like we spend a lot of time in the Shire, but it's needed, you know, like we need to care about this place.
I think that one out of the three, that one feels the shortest. I don't know if it is. I don't remember. I think that one and the second one are about the same. The third one's longer than the first two.
They're about the same, because then Return of the King is very long.
Right, yeah, because it's got all the endings and stuff. But it feels like the first Fellowship of the Ring feels so short, because I feel like the pacing is done so well, where like you watch it and it's like, it definitely feels like a long movie, but it doesn't feel as long as it actually is.
You know, you're saying a lot of things that I've had, like I have thought before. Like I've gone through like, why does Fellowship feel quicker than the Two Towers, even though they're roughly the same length? And I narrowed it down to, I think the fact is, in the Two Towers, we, first of all, in Fellowship of the Ring, everything is new. Like we've not seen any of these things before. So that, but then in the Two Towers, there's a lot of time where we spend where we like go to this place, then go back. There's a lot of time spent in Rohan. There's a lot of time spent in Gondor, and so on. And especially because we also return to these places in Return of the King, right? Because like, you know, like in the Two Towers, we see the main locations, I'd say, apart from like Frodo and Sam, who are like seeing a new location every time. In the Two Towers, we've got Rohan, the horse kingdom, which we spend a lot of time in because it's like the main place. We see Saruman's Tower, which we've already seen in Fellowship, so that's not new, and we're spending quite a bit of time on that. We're spending a lot of time in the forest, and then we spend a lot of time in Gondor and Helm's Deep. Like that's it. Meanwhile, in Fellowship, yes, we spend a lot of time in the Shire, but after that, we never stay anywhere too long. So like we go to Bree, we go to cross the, Buckleberry Ferry, we go this place, we go, I want to say Elrond, but it's Rivendell, we go Rivendell, then we go to the Misty Mountains. We've got, speaking of which, during that time, we've seen Gandalf get captured in Saruman's Tower. We go to the mines, we go to the forest, then we go down the river, and then we get a chase in with the orcs. Like it's never the same location twice. And then in the Two Towers, while it's still a really good movie, and this is not a criticism, it just changes because now we're spending a lot of time in the same locations because we're getting to know King Theoden, we're getting to know the people of Rohan. We have to care about them when Helm's Deep happens. Which, by the way, is hands down the best battle ever put to film. Like,
definitely
the best confrontation. It's so well done.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think another interesting difference too that might make it feel slower too is like the first or once you get to like the second and even the third movie, there's like you're cutting between multiple different plots at like plot threads at once, like multiple different things are happening, whereas like in the first movie it's like you're pretty much just following, it's one story that's just going rather than like
it's a very linear narrative. You don't get many cutaways. Like the only time you really spend outside of Frodo's journey is when you cut to Gandalf being captured by Saruman.
It's actually kind of similar to if you're comparing, like, let's say, the first two Lord of the Rings movies, it's kind of like Star Wars versus
Empire Strikes Back and Return
Empire Strikes Back.
Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi.
Where the first one is like you start with like a few characters, but then it's like it's just one plot moving. There's no like cutaway to separate plots. It's just one story continuous. Whereas the sequel,
one thing.
Right? Whereas the sequel is like has like two main stories that you're cutting between.
Exactly, and this is not to say either one is better than the other. It is purely a point of like different plots going on. And you know, both Empire Strikes Back and The Two Towers are just as good or even better, depending on who you ask, than the original. Like, no one is going to come out here and say The Two Towers is worse than Fellowship or that Empire is worse than the original. Like, everyone sort of like unanimously agrees that they are the same level, more or less. Like you can't really compare.
Yeah. I mean, that's something with the Lord of the Rings trilogy that makes it so great too. Is like I've never been able to rank them. Like, it's just all three are great.
Because technically speaking, they're not three movies. They were made at the exact same time. Like it was one big shoot. So it's really just one story split into three parts, which is something you can't say for Star Wars or The Godfather or Dune. like they are very independently made movies, but specifically Lord of the Rings, I think, is a phenomenon we will never see again, because it was just one big like, all right, let's invest a ton of money, hope for the best,
into this three movies
director who's never made a blockbuster movie can make it work.
Make three whole movies. We're going to film them all at once instead of
3-hour movies with cutting edge visual effects. Like it's something that like no one would invest in that anymore, no matter how much like it's insane, especially because poor Peter Jackson got roped into the Hobbit films, which is a whole conversation that we are just going to gloss over, because I have had 3-hour-long rants on the Hobbit films. To the point where I've actually edited my own cut of the movies. So,
really?
Yeah.
So, like, to cut it down, because I feel like the main thing with that is like, it's just like, why would you make 3 movies out of the Hobbit? You know?
Yeah, like it's a 300-page book, guys. Like the third movie extends what is basically half a page into 2.5 hours. Like the battle of, here's the thing, there's something people don't realize about The Hobbit. The Battle of the Five Armies, which is like the big third film, Bilbo isn't conscious for that battle. He gets hit on the head by a rock at the beginning, and he wakes up in the next paragraph and gets caught up on who died. Like, we don't see what happens in the battle.
Yeah.
But obviously you need the battle in the film. Like, you can't skip that.
So they can make it 3 movies, yeah.
Yeah, like, because like the thing that happened with The Hobbit, and I feel for Peter Jackson so much. I feel for him, really, because he didn't want that to happen. He obviously cares. What happened was he wasn't meant to direct it. He did not want to direct it. Guillermo del Toro was supposed to make the films.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was his passion project. Guillermo absolutely like wanted to make it, and it was supposed to be 2 movies, but then it's kind of unclear what happened. People say scheduling conflicts, and Guillermo wanted to make other projects, but you hear the man talk about the movies, and you say this man would not have abandoned it. I think he got quietly fired because he had a completely different vision, and the studio just wanted another Lord of the Rings, which for
isn't
the Hobbit,
what the Hobbit is.
Yeah, like it's a completely different beast. That's the issue with the Hobbit. Like, the Hobbit is technically a prequel to the Lord of the Rings, but first off, it wasn't written as a prequel because it was written first, and second off, the events of the Hobbit don't lead into Lord of the Rings. It's not set up for the Lord of the Rings. It's sort of just another story that happens to happen
just
before.
Like a little bit of backstory for Bilbo.
A very minor character, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's not meant to lead into it. But obviously, when you're now developing these films as prequels, well, they have to feel like the Lord of the Rings. So they have to be 3 hours long, have about 10 hours of behind-the-scenes appendices, lead into Lord of the Rings. Why isn't Legolas in there? Like they
Let's just throw him in there for no reason. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing: like Legolas cameoing makes sense. You know, he is from those elves. He like a small cameo would have made sense. It's the fact that they try to develop him into an actual role, and it doesn't work. And like the issue with the Hobbit films isn't that the story isn't told. All of the beats are there. They're just crammed in with so much stuff that doesn't fit. You know, like it's not supposed to be there, and it feels achingly out of place. So at one point, a few years back, right before I started this YouTube channel, I just went, well, all of the pieces are there. Let's just cut chunks of it out, you know, and just make one 3-hour film that follows the book. And it was a great birthday gift from my grandfather, who absolutely adores the movies, and he got me into the Lord of the Rings. So, you know, it worked out quite well. Spent way too long on it, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's just crazy too when you like compare just little things with The Hobbit, because even just like an action scene from The Hobbit to an action scene from Lord of the Rings, how
it just doesn't work.
Not
like another detail, like the behind the scenes, like the issue, the reason the Hobbit films don't feel right, apart from the fact that they're overstuffed, it's the fact that Guillermo del Toro left production 3 months before shooting, and Peter Jackson basically threw away everything he'd worked on and started from scratch. 3 months before shooting. Keep in mind, Lord of the Rings had 5 years of pre-production.
Right.
Like there was no way Peter Jackson, a man who didn't even want to direct these movies, like he did it because he loves the material and he wanted to do it in the end when there was no other choice.
Yeah, it's like somebody's got to do it. You want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, and you look at him in like behind the scenes and the appendices and whatever, and you see a man who's just like, he's clearly stretched to the limit, trying his goddamn hardest to make it work, but you can't draw out of what's not there. You know, like you can't make something out of nothing. And you look up like behind the scenes interviews and whatever, and all the actors were like, oh yeah, we were spent like 4 hours in makeup and then we didn't shoot anything because it turned out we weren't in that scene. Yeah, it's just like,
it was just
ridiculous.
Yeah, it wasn't well planned out because it was all rushed at the end there.
Yeah, except here's the issue. Some of the stuff that's in it really works. Like, you can tell which scenes had a priority. Like Gollum and Bilbo's scene is flawless.
I actually really like that scene. Yeah,
it's flawless. There's nothing. It's the perfect melding of like the Hobbit version of Gollum, which is kind of different from Lord of the Rings. He's more like, he's less threatening, right? He's more of a, you know, weirdo rather than an actual killer. But they meld it perfectly. It works. Gandalf works great, and his chemistry with Martin Freeman is great. Smaug, the dragon, is done brilliantly.
Yeah.
And speaking of like casting decisions, Martin Freeman as Bilbo might be my favorite casting in the entire franchise, including Lord of the Rings. I think he's perfect. It is perfect. It's the fact that because of the overstuffed pacing and plot and what they include, he becomes an extra in his own movie. Like, The Hobbit stops being about The Hobbit, and that's where it fails. It's not that they changed things. I wouldn't have minded if they changed things. It's that they lost what made the story work.
Yeah,
and that's what I endeavored to fix when I recut it. I just made like I just went, okay, let's find Bilbo scenes that are good, and there was so much to pick from, and cut out all the dumb, pointless orc armies and, you know, references to Lord of the Rings and Saruman and Galadriel and Sauron's coming back. Like, this is The Hobbit, bro. Stay in your lane, you know?
That's not what it's about, yeah. So the real question is, where can I see this your cut of this of the movie?
Never. It's extremely illegal to do so, and I didn't do it. It never happened. What cut of the Hobbit film?
What?
I totally don't have you recorded.
Well, I feel like as long as you don't, you know, publish it.
No, actually,
I feel like it's fine.
Making it is fine. Publishing it is wrong. So as long as I don't set it for
Right.
public viewing, it's fine. As a gift for my grandfather, it works, and I can talk about making it. I just can't show it.
Yeah, yeah.
But totally discreetly, maybe pause the recording over here. But if you go on fanedit.org, you'll find a bunch of other people who've made fan edits of The Hobbit. Some of them better, and some of them worse. Like the fanedit.org. If you care about like the culture of fan editing, it's amazing. There's so much stuff there. There's like Rise of Skywalker, but like, it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't.
But it makes sense.
It's terrible.
Can you make that make sense? Can you make it?
They do mild improvements, like when like Rey summons all the Jedi, you actually see them there. Like that's kind of cool. They made Leia's lightsaber purple, which is like dumb, but okay. Whatever. Like it's very minor, not great changes, but it does, in my opinion, softly improve the film. There's not much to work with, though.
It's more like minor, improvements.
Yeah, like it's trying to salvage the best from the train wreck that film is.
They're like I feel like you have to like completely rechange like what music is played in what scenes too. Like, because I feel like that was all so wrong.
You'd have to, speaking of like badly placed music and dipping back our toes into The Hobbit, what the hell? Why is there's a moment at the end of the first film where they play the Nazgul theme, the Black Rider theme from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
And, like,
I don't remember that.
Do you even compose, bro? Like, what?
That doesn't fit the scene. It's like, it's good music, but it doesn't fit the scene.
Like, here's the thing. Like, Lord of the Rings soundtrack is famously a very leitmotif, like it's meant, like each music piece represents one thing. The Ring theme, you can't use that for someone else.
The Fellowship theme,
exactly. Like everything has its own theme. Like, the Nazgul theme is not just bad or danger theme. It's the Nazgul theme. It's meant to represent them.
Hello. There you go. I can hear you now.
Good. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
That's what happens when I rant too hard. Even the internet gets tired of me.
It's like, just quit.
Yeah, just cut. What is this pretentious prick talking about? Let's just go.
Right.
Hear me fine and all that?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. I'll stop talking about The Hobbit so it doesn't happen again. I'm just gonna blame that. Right.
Well, I'm trying to remember what you were saying last about it. It was so if you want to at least finish your thought that you were on.
Pick the right music for the right scene. Guys.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
That's your daily lesson of the week. Film my lessons for the week. Just pick music that makes
because I think
some sense. I'm trying not to swear.
No, that's good. You can if you want.
Okay. Fucking makes sense, guys.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I think one of my favorite examples from Rise of Skywalker, though, is the scene where Luke is like, the ghost of Luke is like lifting the X-Wing out of the water, and it plays Yoda's theme.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because it's the same, like, okay, that music played when Yoda was lifting an X-Wing out of water, but that was Yoda's using the same interest, but it's like supposed to be for Yoda.
Yeah, and now in the metatextual context of the film, this theme is no longer Yoda's theme. It's lifting the X-Wing theme.
Lifting an X-Wing out of the water theme, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what it means now, guys. It's the same way how they recontextualized in most of the media Vader's theme into the Empire theme, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Vader's theme never shows up in the original movie. You never hear the Imperial March. And I know it's funny that the Imperial March is actually Vader's theme, but it is. It's not meant to represent Darth Vader. It's meant to it's not meant to represent the Empire. It's meant to represent Darth Vader.
Yes, it definitely is.
Because the Empire has its own theme in the original movie. Which I won't hum for you because I think this show deserves better. But yeah, and then throughout the rest of Star Wars media, especially after Disney acquired it,
It's just become the Empire theme.
Yeah, and like that's a subtle change. It's not too bad. It's not to the point where it ruins, the context of the theme. There we go. But it is to the point where like Disney doesn't seem to care about what the music is meant to represent.
Well, they know that it's a really popular piece of music, so they're going to use it where they can.
For example, Han and Leia's love theme in the sequels became Leia's theme. Like, just Leia. It was no longer a representation of Han and Leia's relationship. It was a representation of just Leia. So Han didn't become important anymore.
Yeah.
Or the overuse of the Force theme. Like,
oh, yeah, that's one of the big ones.
All the time. And if you want like a very in-depth look at like music and film and all that, I really recommend. I'm going to plug a completely different channel this time. The music analysis video YouTuber Sideways.
Yes, I've watched him a lot. Yeah.
He's brilliant. I think I reference his stuff all the time. I think it's great.
Well, it's like I know nothing about like composing music or anything.
But he makes it easy.
But he does a good job at explaining things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think his videos on like musicals, because I'm a very big fan of musicals. I adore musicals. His videos on like the Disney music and all that are just absolutely sublime. They're so well done. Star Wars ones he does are really, really good. Like there's that one where he like picks apart Rey's theme and then figures out through the context of the music that John Williams that they had no idea where Rey's theme was going to go.
So
where Rey's story was going to go.
Yeah,
so
I saw that video.
Elements of like each other character so that he could, harmonize them.
Depending on who her real parents were, depending on what the backstory ended up being, he could shape it to fit that. Yeah,
exactly. Like that just goes to show how much of a powerhouse John Williams is, and how much he was left in the dark of like what was going on, and how much Disney didn't plan it out at all.
Well, I get the sense that when it got to Rise of Skywalker, that like obviously John Williams did the score, but like, did he choose which pieces of music went in which scenes? Because it feels like it didn't. He didn't.
Bit of a fun fact about the production of Rise of Skywalker: John Williams composed an entirely original 4-hour soundtrack, of which almost none of which was used in the final cut.
Right, because they instead were like, nah, we'll use the old tracks that everybody's heard before. That bring back the nostalgia. Because if you look at like, I'm here like, bear with my conspiracy theories here. My red wire and the pictures and all that. But if you look at an interview with Daisy Ridley, and she mentions of like, oh yeah, I was on set one day, and J.J. Abrams came up to me and says like, oh, we're thinking about making you Obi-Wan's daughter, and like, if you like connect these dots. My thoughts is they shot many different versions. Like they didn't have a script, like a finished script for the film. They were just shooting a bunch of different versions and then seeing the reaction from Last Jedi, because they started shooting it about the time Last Jedi came out. So they were seeing the reactions of Last Jedi and just sort of like improvising on the fly on what to do. And the final film really reflects that. So essentially, John Williams was shown like 7 different variations of what could happen, and he composed music for basically all of it. And then apparently they just didn't use it. And to quote what Sideways said on the matter, if Disney really wants to make a quick buck out of Rise of Skywalker now that they've seen it's an absolute failure, just release the soundtrack. Like I would love to hear this 4-hour Star Wars soundtrack composed by John Williams that no one has heard. That's never been released. Oh my gosh.
Never. Like you just hear hints of it in the score of Rise of Skywalker. I'm not saying like each theme is like every theme is going to be new. Obviously we're going to be reusing old stuff.
Well, but right. You always have motifs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it is original compositions that have not been heard. And it is apparently 4 hours long. And Disney has the license to it, has the license to distribute it, and just doesn't. And it bugs me. It's the same as like the original cuts, like the theatrical cuts. And speaking of fan edits, Harmy's despecialized edition is a godsend.
Yeah, I've seen it.
What a trooper, man. What a that is film fanaticism at its finest. That is when being an obsessive fan pays off. As long as you're not being an asshole on the internet, I think it's worth it. But that is like the level of like devotion that really makes you see the love for film that these people have.
I feel like that Disney definitely has to like own the original like
Prince. Yeah, they own the
like
company.
the original Prince, the original film. Like unless it somehow was lost at some point and nobody like under George Lucas, which I doubt. So like they could release it.
George Lucas is famous for being quite a hoarder in his stuff, except for one occasion, which is the Star Wars holiday special, which he literally tried to bury and just destroy. But
try to have everyone forget that it existed.
Which reminds me, I should watch that new documentary they've released on Disney about Boba Fett and see if they talk about the holiday special, because Boba Fett was introduced there. That was his first appearance.
That's true. It was, the little animated part of it. Yeah,
exactly.
That's true.
Have you seen the actual thing?
Yes.
Oh, it's rough.
Yeah, it is.
I can't lie. I love it. Like, I love to beat it. It's like watching a recent Zack Snyder movie. It's like, God, you're a mess, but you're a fun mess.
It's like the whole movie is like just watching people watch stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. It's that scene which is basically porn, and it's just like Chewie. Is it Chewie's dad? Like, I don't know. They never subtitle him, so you don't know who they are.
Yeah, I think it probably is.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter, but like he's just like in this like 3D headset, I suppose, and it's just like this sensual woman in like reflective clothes, just sort of like saying random things in a sensual voice, and it's just the funniest stuff. Like you can't make it up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like it was like a TV special, like film.
Yeah.
Like,
or the ending with Carrie Fisher singing the Star Wars theme with lyrics. Oh,
that's right.
Oh my god.
I think I've heard of this like once or twice, and all I know is that it's terrible.
Oh, it's so bad.
So, yeah, it was released. So I think it came out it might have been the year Star Wars came out, like later that year.
No, it came
or the year
out
after
next
that.
Year. It came
like
out the next year.
So 89 or 88, I mean. Or 78, not my gosh, my years in my head are 78, yeah.
Let's find out. Holiday special Star Wars. Here we go.
Because it was
1978, correct. You are correct.
78, yeah, because it was the year after the original Star Wars, but obviously before any of the other movies came out.
It's if you've never seen it, Cub, I highly recommend it. It is one of those great films. It's on par, in my opinion, with The Godfather Part 2. Yeah. Clearly a misunderstood masterpiece.
You can definitely find it. I think you could probably find it free on YouTube.
I think you can find clips of it. But
I don't remember where I watched it, like how I watched it.
I watched it with that friend who keeps inviting me onto, like, saying I should make a podcast with him. I watched it with him because he like sourced it, from the ether of the internet, and one day he just like sat me down to watch it with him, and I didn't know what it was, and it started, and I was like, oh boy,
oh no,
here we go.
Can I ask what? Because like I'm the type of person that when I'm watching something, if it's like particularly bad or just like weird, I will just like cringe myself into like another dimension, just folding in on myself. So will that happen?
Both yes and no. Because here's the thing, it's very it's sort of episodic. Like there's little segments. Like the main plot concerns like Chewie's family. And yes, that is about as irritating as it sounds, because there are no humans with them most of the time, so you don't know what they're saying. But basically, like Chewie's family
or anything.
Absolutely not. Obviously not. So basically, they just go on like it's like little vignettes. Like they Chewie's dad or grandfather or whatever gets into a headset and he watches a circus performance. Then there's a rock concert. Like it's pure like human, normal rock, just set in Star Wars, and there's no aliens. It's just a rock concert, filmed on a blue screen, tinted a different color, and put in a Star Wars movie.
Oh boy.
And then you've got an animated segment where we see Boba Fett for the first time. You've got Luke Skywalker doing his very hardest to look like the Ken doll.
He definitely had pounds of makeup on. They say it was because of like the accident TV. He was in or whatever.
Yeah, the accident, true, but also like I feel like they've got a heavier dose of makeup because it's meant to be a TV special, not a film special. So they filmed it for TV.
Yeah, it just looks so weird.
Yeah, it's not good.
I've gotten that.
But
I figured that much out.
It's not good and it's not entertaining the entire way through. But when it gets weird, my God, does it get weird?
Right.
It's such an experiment in weirdness. And I'm like you, I can't stand cringe stuff. Like I can't lie, I don't like The Office. It really rubs me the wrong way. But this movie is like it's like a rite of passage, I'll tune into your podcast if you make an episode on it.
I'm scared but curious.
Well, that's the best way to be when it comes to Star Wars special.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's also funny because it's like they've tried to like I think George Lucas has like tried to like pretend it doesn't exist too. Like he's tried to like.
To quote him directly, he said, "If I would find every copy of that and bury it in the sand." Like, he really doesn't want you to watch it, which just means we'll do everything we can to watch it.
Yeah, I think they should release it on Disney Plus, but I don't know.
Oh, no, Disney's not that brave, but they will release the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, so
yeah,
that's a thing. I'm not kidding. That's a thing. There's like 2 of them now.
Yeah. I'm actually interested to watch it just to see, because like.
I've not seen it, but I don't think it actually takes inspiration from the original Holiday Special. It's just meant to be a Lego Star Wars thing,
Yeah, which is fun,
Yeah, whatever. Like I'm just waiting for the next the Lego Star Wars game, which was supposed to come out a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's taking a while.
It was supposed to coincide with the Rise of Skywalker release, but then I don't think Rise of Skywalker did too well. I might be wrong. I didn't pay much attention.
Well, it definitely did well in terms of money, probably.
Yes.
But in terms of like critical reception,
it's like the Lion King remake, which is now the highest grossing animated film of all time. But it's still crap.
I can't believe that's the highest grossing animated movie of all time.
Especially because it's being marketed as the live action quote unquote version, even though it's fully animated, because it is just all computer CG. Disney. God. Why? Just stop. Please. Have mercy.
Honestly, though, just take everything we love and destroy it. That's what Disney does now.
Yeah. That said, speaking of Disney, they did release a new animated feature this week or the week before, Encanto. And I quite like that, actually. I enjoyed it quite a bit, mostly because it has actors I really love, music that I thought was really good. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of musicals and animated movies, so I won't talk your ear off about it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it at some point. I always like to watch whatever new, like, stuff comes out from the Disney animation studio, because they usually pretty
never
good.
Say never like when it comes to like new stuff these days, because I'm trying to be a filmmaker, I always say like people say like, why don't we watch this, and I'm like, I try to resist the urge to say like push yourself, like watch it, maybe it's good. It most likely will not be, but maybe.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's yeah.
And that's how you get gems. Like I literally right before this, I finished a Netflix show which had been recommended to me called The Stranger, which actually stars one of the main stars from The Hobbit, funnily enough. But I was like, what's it about? And they're like, oh, it's a missing mother, and it's a mystery show. And I'm just like, that sounds like a dime a dozen show, like it doesn't sound special. And they're like, no, check it out. And I decided to, and it was, it wasn't anything like mind blowing or anything, but it was well done. It was well filmed, and funnily enough, it's made by the same production company that I'm hoping to apply for next year. So that's a fun little thing.
Oh wow! Look at that. Yeah. Awesome.
I mean, I won't get hired, but I'll apply.
Right. Well, yeah, you'll at least apply. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, I always like try to have a gander when I'm on Netflix. I'm like, what's this? An animated show about League of Legends? Why not? And then it turns out to be one of the best shows of the year. Which, by the way, Arcane is one of the best shows of the year. Go watch it.
Yeah, I might at some point. Yeah, there's like so many shows I want to watch.
If you like Spider-Verse, you will like Arcane. It feels it's the Spider-Verse of television animation, in my opinion. It is
interesting.
And in fact, I was watching it with a friend who knows a lot about League of Legends. I think I enjoyed it more than him because I didn't know how it was going to turn out because it's a prequel.
Yeah, and I know nothing about League of Legends. So.
Yeah, like here's the thing: the great thing about the show is it treats it as though no one will know what it treats it as though League of Legends doesn't exist.
Right.
Like so, it follows the lore, but the filmmaking does not assume that you know about it.
Yeah, so it's good for people who don't know anything about it, right?
Yeah, like I say, it's probably better if you don't know that like this character becomes the villain. Like not knowing it when the twist happened, I was like, "Oh, what?" Like, well done. They built it like it never goes the way you think it's going to go, and it's done very well. The animation is absolutely spectacular. And then you get Imagine Dragons songs every so often. So, that's good.
All right.
Honestly, League of Legends has always been a beast that I never dared touch because I knew the community was like the most toxic on the internet ever.
I mean, we have been talking about Star Wars a bit, so I don't know if
that's a pretty toxic community.
Yeah, you have. That's.
I can't believe that they made Rey have long hair. That is such a misogynist thing to do, and it just assumes things about them feminist fans. Shut up, bro. Shut up. Just let me.
I don't think I've ever heard that one.
I'm just making up the most ridiculous thing because everything else has probably been said.
Yeah.
But you saying that it assumes, it's like pretty separated from the game. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I will check it out then.
Yeah.
Like it's here's the thing. League of Legends. My friend who knows a lot about it. League of Legends has very little lore because it's like Overwatch. Like you don't need to know what's going on. Plot. Like the game doesn't have a plot.
It's just there. Whatever plot is there for the fun gameplay.
Yeah, whatever plot is there is like implied. It's hinted at, but it's not necessary for the game because then eventually you can pick whichever character. So it doesn't make sense that characters that are supposed to be mortal enemies are fighting together.
Right.
Exactly like in Overwatch.
Right.
But that said, the show uses the lore as a backbone for telling a good story. I've been told it follows the lore pretty much perfectly, but like I said, I did not know anything about it going in, and I have left it knowing nothing about the game at all, but knowing a lot about what a good show it is and how the editing and the animation, it's not only just well animated, it's it's filmmaking done well, not just computer well done. It's really, really good. It's like a continuation of Clone Wars, really, in that sense. It's the next big step after Clone Wars in terms of television animation.
That's cool.
And I can't wait for Disney to rip it off and make a Star Wars show because the animation style would look great as a Star Wars show. This is the one time I'm Disney, come on, snap it up. Let's do that. Just do that.
Next Disney Plus show coming. Yeah.
Come on,
my God.
Do
Star
your
Wars. Let's see. What's a noun we haven't used yet? Star Wars Resurrections. Let's see. I know Matrix just used it. Yeah, Star Wars Resurrections. Let's see. Let's spitball here. Who needs to come back? Chief Palpatine is back again. We're not going to explain it again. And it's a romantic comedy about him and the Mandalorian as an old man. Let's go. Come on, move it. Put it into production.
Right. Okay.
Like the Disney
I don't know what I
storyboard
just
room.
said, but it doesn't matter.
Like the Disney storyboard room just has like a spinning wheel that you throw darts at and dice to roll.
That feels accurate, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Now, speaking of animated shows I'm interested in, like there's another Netflix one that I'm interested in because it's one of the creators was also the head writer of Avatar.
Right.
It's like the Dragon Prince.
I watched the first 5 episodes, I think. Yeah, the first 5 episodes or so. I enjoyed it with like a grain of salt. Like it felt weird in terms of the animation style. From what I understand, after the first season, they sort of get the hang of it. And it gets way better. But for me, like the animation style itself felt a bit off. It felt very like sort of like if they were trying to mix Clone Wars like CG, but have it look like Avatar, you know, in the way that like it's shaded or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, it looks like cell shaded and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an animation choice that it wasn't bad. It was done well. The animation looks good. It was just, I wasn't connecting with it to the point that I couldn't get into what was happening. So that is completely on me. You know, like it was just, I wasn't communicating with the visual language of the show.
Right.
As I've said, like a friend of mine who's watched all of it and his opinion I value a lot. He's very smart. He said it gets way better. Like it improves a lot. It is just to the point that like, I literally do not remember what happened in those 5 episodes and I am not invested enough to rewatch them and find out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I kind of want to watch it eventually. It's just,
I like, you know, watch it. Like, don't go off my opinion. Just
for sure. Because like, you know, Avatar's like my favorite show of all time, pretty much.
It's brilliant. It's so good.
And yeah, exactly. And so I was like, oh, the head writer of Avatar is one of the creators, and also the like lead voice actor is Sokka's voice.
Sokka, yeah,
which is just great.
Yeah, there's a little hint of that in the show. There's this one moment where like he finds a boomerang and
I think I saw that clip before. It's like a
fun little moment there.
It's just like something seems so familiar about this. Boomerang? Yeah.
It's dumb, but it's fun. You know, it's done well. It's a show like I don't know. I was watching it. I just wasn't connecting it with it, and who knows? Maybe I'm just missing out on a gem here, but. You know, I can live without Dragon Prince, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I push myself to try new things every day.
But no,
I fail most days, but
yeah. Speaking of Avatar, they're making a Netflix live action show.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not ruin our palates.
I'm like, I don't think the show's going to end up that good, right?
I mean,
of course
the original creators stepped away from it saying they had creative differences with the show.
Right. So. But I'm going to watch it and like just to see, because like it can't be as bad as the Shyamalan movie. It just can't. There's no way.
No, but let's look at the track record of Netflix live action adaptation, shall we?
Oh yeah, we just talked about one recently. Actually, we talked about Death Note on this podcast. So,
which I apologize if you had to watch that. I'm so sorry. I've not actually seen the original. I've only watched the remake, and I hated it.
Right, because because we talked about the show on the podcast, and we got through it, and I was like, you know, since we talked about the show, I feel like we have to talk about this movie, just because we already talked about the show. because we also talked about Avatar on this podcast, and then we also had a video before that talking about the live action Avatar movie.
Yeah,
which
that one was rough. I mean, it's become sort of like Spider-Man 3 for me, in the point that like I will put on clips of it to laugh, but I will not sit through it.
I don't know. I don't think Spider-Man 3 is that bad.
No, it's not. No,
it's a little.
Spider-Man 3 is worth watching. It's just hilariously stupid in the best way. Like it's fully a comedy. Like I can no longer get invested in the character bit of it because it's so dumb in the best way. I love it. I absolutely adore Spider-Man 3. I think it's the funniest of the 3 films.
Yeah, probably. It's definitely the generated the most memes for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the funniest. I don't think it was intended to be, but it definitely is.
I love that the 3 or like the older Spider-Man movies, just all of them have been reduced to memes by the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
what else would you do with them? Actually watch them?
Bully Maguire. Have you ever watched YouTube videos, the Bully Maguire videos that people make?
I live with all
those are great.
Students. I live with all film students, and all we do is just quote Bully Maguire at each other.
Yeah, it's great.
The other day, my friend dropped like his glass or something. I was like, "Oh, gonna cry."
I'll put some dirt in your eye.
It's so funny.
Just like, yeah, it's great.
I love Sam Raimi so much. Like, I watched. I hadn't seen the Evil Dead movies until this year, and they were a revelation. They are now among my top films ever made.
I've still only seen the first one.
The second, the first one is great. The first one is great, but it doesn't get crazy until halfway. The second one just starts off insane and gets progressively more weird. And then the third one is just a fever dream.
Yeah, because the first movie is essentially, it's like just some friends they're putting a movie together with like no budget, basically.
Oh yeah, it was done. It's so interesting to research that. Which I'm going to plug another YouTube channel, because why plug mine? And I'm going to say Royal Ocean Film Society has a video on Evil Dead, and in fact, he's one of the best YouTubers out there right now on film. Royal Ocean Film Society. It's really good. I've been quoting his video on fan edits throughout this talk, because like he makes a lot of points like that I have later like researched into, but it's his stuff is much more documentary than film analysis. He mostly goes into like why these things happen, why are movies made like this, rather than what does it mean, But he's really good. But anyway, and the Evil Dead movies are just absolutely brilliant in the fact that like they started out as a B movie made by kids, and then they became B movies made by filmmakers, but they're the same team. But like now they know what they're doing, and now
people know their names.
Yeah, and it got so well done. And Bruce Campbell is just one of the greatest physical performers right now.
So
not anymore, but like he was great.
I just love that because of that, like Sam Raimi had Bruce Campbell make a cameo in each one of his Spider-Man movies, and
each of them is better than the last. Like
he's just this French waiter in the third one.
Yeah, I am French.
Like Bruce Campbell is not French at all, fully American.
Bruce Campbell is one of like the weirdest Hollywood stars, but also one of the funniest. Like, you can't not like the man. He's so likable.
Yeah.
But like you haven't seen Evil Dead 2, but like there's this moment where like at the beginning of Evil Dead 2, his hand is possessed, right? Only his hand.
Right.
And it's just like, and they embrace, like Evil Dead 1 is trying to be a horror film, but it's unintentionally hilarious. Like it's funny. And Evil Dead 2 dips into the comedy, and it becomes a horror comedy. It is much more funny, intentionally funny. And there's this moment where like his hand is possessed and trying to kill him. So he's just in the kitchen and he's smashing plate after plate in one take on himself. And it's like Three Stooges level comedy, but it's done so well and it's so funny. And like Bruce Campbell does like the dazed what the fuck is going on look so well. It's honestly like some of the funniest movies. If you ever need a movie, you don't even need to be drunk. It feels like you're drunk watching it, just watching it. But like if you want a movie that is just like all the weird scenes from Spider-Man as a movie, but then they're horrible. Like imagine if you mixed Green Goblin scenes from the first film and that really fucked up scene with the Dr. Octopus arms in the hospital in the second one, right? Where like they kill all the doctors and it's really weird. And creepy. Imagine if you mixed those two and made a gory horror film out of it, and that is what you get with Evil Dead 2. It is so funny.
Yeah.
And
it's like weird because it's like horror and comedy seems like a very strange combination. Like,
and yet it works so well. It works. Like, have you watched Ready or Not?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a great film. It's so funny, but it's so scary. Like Evil Dead at this point is no longer scary. Like, you know, it's purely a comedy at this point because it's, you know, it's age.
Like as long as you can handle the gore, you're probably fine.
Yeah. Yeah, but Ready or Not is to give you the basic plot, you know, just pitch. A woman marries into this rich family who then all turn out to be cultists, and they have this thing where like when someone is introduced to the family through marriage, they have to play a game, right? And there's like it can be any game, you know, checkers, chess, it's decided by chance. But if it is hide and seek, they will try to find her and they will kill her, right? They're gonna kill her and sacrifice her or whatever. And it's so funny. Like it's done so well, and the ending is so fucked up in the best way. It's hilarious. Like it's so good. And the main actress like owns the movie. Like she takes control of it. And it feels like a new iteration of Evil Dead. In like the sense of like it's funny, but it's still scary. Like you're laughing, but you're laughing with like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now?
Nice. Huh.
Yeah, I do recommend both series, like Evil Dead and then the one movie Ready or Not. It's from 2017, I think. Okay. And it's really, really good.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Actually, so we're probably going to get ready to close here soon, but and I mean, you've already given some recommendations of movies to watch, but what we usually do when we have a guest on is, so we'll have, you know, the way our podcast works is a lot of times we'll do just an entire podcast where we just discuss one movie. But whenever we have a guest on, we have the guest essentially decide what our next movie we're going to discuss is. So give us a suggestion. So yeah.
Well, you've put pressure on me because now I want to give you a good movie, but I also want to give you a bad movie. So you guys have something to talk about.
I mean, good or bad, it works.
I mean, it's like, you know, we've mentioned a lot that you guys can watch. I kind of don't want to just pick one out of the blue that we haven't talked about. So I'm just going to list them off. So we talked about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which I don't know if you've talked about.
We already talked about Lord of the Rings. We didn't do The Hobbit, but we did Lord of the Rings already. Yeah.
Don't do The Hobbit. You don't need to do that. I apologize for suggesting that. You don't deserve that. You guys are nice. They're not even that bad movies. They just offend me personally.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm not a fan either. So
yeah, Star Wars Holiday Special. That could be fun for you guys. Evil Dead 2. I would love to see you guys watch Evil Dead 2. You'd find that really funny. Ready or Not, if you want to watch something more modern. I'd say those three. You know, just pick one of those three. You know, either Star Wars Holiday Special, which, you know, good luck.
Should we roll a dice?
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I'd say flip a coin, but that only gives us two options.
I actually have D&D dice.
Oh, just right there. All right. Yeah. So
I'll grab a D6 and one or two Star Wars Holiday Special, 3 or 4. I've already forgotten the names of them.
Evil Dead 2.
Yep. And then 3 or 4 and 5. Yeah, I can talk. 5 and 6 will be.
What's it called? Nice.
Ready or Not.
Ready or Not.
Okay.
I was gonna say Now You See Me. That's a different movie.
I have my nice.
No, that's a
dice here.
very,
I have
very
my
different movie.
dice.
Yeah, I was like, well, something wrong to yeah.
Okay, let's see here. That's a 3.
So that's Evil Dead 2.
Evil
There you
Dead.
go.
Yes.
There we go.
I can't wait. Like I
Now-
need you to message me when you watch it and just see.
Now,
Yeah.
now I've seen the first one, but I don't think Cub has. It's it doesn't really matter that much if you see the first one, right? It's more.
No, in fact, basically the first 5 minutes, because funny story, they couldn't really quote unquote make a sequel because they didn't have the rights to the original movie. Like they sold the movie, so they didn't have the rights to use it. So basically, in the first 5 minutes of Evil Dead 2, they just do like a lightning round recap where they reshot it with like different actors apart from Bruce Campbell, and just do a quick recap of the film for you.
Oh, okay.
And that's
Great.
like they couldn't use the footage from the original movie, so they had to just reshoot it with different people, and people got so confused. So it's meant to be a sequel, but you will get the essence of what happens in the first one. I mean, it's a haunted house. Like,
I mean, the first, the plot of the first one's not that complicated. It's more, I feel like more the main thing with it is more the style over like the actual plot.
Yeah, and if you're here for the style of Evil Dead 2 is the way to go. And then Evil Dead 3 just is so wacky and crazy, and it both doesn't feel like anything like the other two, but it also feels like the exact direction it needed to go. It's like, I can't describe it without spoiling it, but I also can't spoil it without like showing it to you. Like it's very difficult to talk about these movies.
Well, there you go. So
yeah,
that'll be Evil Dead 2, which we will be talking about next week on the podcast.
Okay.
So definitely be excited for that. And the week after next week, so 2 weeks from now, we are going to be discussing in the spirit of the Christmas season, we're going to be talking about Die Hard, because it is a Christmas movie. Okay,
I'm not going to disagree with you. I haven't watched it.
All right. It takes place on Christmas at a Christmas party, so it counts as
it's Christmas. Yeah,
Christmas movie. Yeah.
It's
no one's gonna argue with you, right?
There's
Nobody on the internet
Christmas music
disagree.
plays in the movie, so so
it's Christmas.
It's a Christmas
let's
movie.
have one final confrontation between you two. I'm just going to spark the seed of distrust. Is Nightmare Before Christmas a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie? Discuss
Both. Both. Why can't it be both?
Look at you taking the middle of the road.
I honestly do not care. Like, I'm not gonna die on this hill.
I mean, I feel like it definitely I feel like it tends to have more like horror, creepy vibes than it does like warm, fuzzy Christmas vibes. So I guess
but it's
you could lean more that way
around Christmas. It's in the
Right.
title.
So like, honestly, I think it's both. I think it's a movie that works really well for both. So I don't really have much more to say on it. Like, I don't know.
Really? Okay. I haven't started a 3-hour argument like I did last time. Oh, well.
You did, yeah. Well, where do you stand on that?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it's a fever dream. It doesn't matter when you watch it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it's
a movie. I the first time I watched it was summertime, so I think I lost the context side of it.
So you weren't even close to the right time of year, right?
No, I just decided, absolutely not. Why put? I watched Home Alone in summer vacation because it's my sister's favorite film. So you know what? Whatever.
Nice. That's a good movie, though.
Oh yeah, I think it's great, but it's supposed to be a Christmas movie,
right? Yeah, exactly.
and my sister loves to watch it in summer, so like, who cares?
yeah. Well, but so we'll be doing Evil Dead 2 next week, and the week after that we will be doing, because the week after that the podcast will actually be on the one we were talking about, Die Hard, will actually be on Christmas Day because podcast comes out every Saturday, and Christmas Day is on a Saturday this year. So,
what a neat coincidence!
Perfect timing, yeah, perfect coincidence, right?
What a coincidence!
Yeah, yeah. So, as I said, the podcast comes out every Saturday. It comes out at noon EST, Eastern Standard Time.
Which would be 6 for me, I think, or 7.
Yes, it would be. Well, it depends on what time of year, because we're in like daylight savings right now, which is just freaking.
I'll check at 8, and it will most likely be done.
Freaking America with our daylight savings. So I think right now you're actually 5 hours ahead of us, but I think like normally you would be like, I don't know, maybe 6 in a normal time of year. I don't know.
Is it daytime over there?
Yes, it is 1:18 right now. I'm looking at
is it daylight? Like, is the day?
Yes, there is daylight. Yes.
How dare you?
Cloudy, but
it's been night since like 3.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe eventually we'll get rid of daylight savings because nobody likes it and it's kind of dumb and pointless. But whatever.
Yeah, it's the same way. Maybe eventually we'll get rid of the hierarchical system of social commentary. But you know what? Let's stop this before I get political. Anyway, backtracking quickly and thoroughly.
But anyways, well, see, that's a bigger issue because like daylight savings is like it's just kind of a little bit annoying. Like it's not like horror. It's just a little weird and annoying. But like, yeah,
but it's all like we don't use the metric system. We can't change that because everyone. It's going to confuse so many people when we change it. So it's just not going to happen.
I hate all of you so much for that. Because I'm not British, despite what many people think. I'm not English. I am European. I am Spanish. And I use the metric system. I use meters. And here they use feet, which sounds, it's weird. Because I don't have a feet fetish, so I shouldn't have to use feet. Then you've got like measuring in pound, but then they also measure in stone, and that's apparently not the same thing. And
I don't know what stone is. I know what pounds are.
Why? No one's telling me, and I feel very misinformed. And I look it up, and like,
how do you measure what we use too? But
yeah, I know, and I still don't like you guys. Kilograms make sense. But like, and then I asked them, like, I look it up. What is measuring in stones? And I just get like the properties of granite, and I'm just like, I don't.
I've never heard of that actually. I don't even know what that is. Measuring.
Oh yeah, I lost 3 stones.
That must be 100% an English thing because I don't know what that is.
Wait till I get you started on what crumpets are.
Here's the thing, right?
Anyway,
we all acknowledge that the metric system is easier because it's just multiples of 10, but none of us have a reference for any of it.
Well, right, because we're used to what we use.
No, but here's the thing: just extend your arms, like straight out. That's roughly 1.5 meters. There you go. That's it. That's 1.5 meters.
I mean, but that varies like with height, like a lot, though.
Roughly.
Just a rough estimate. I mean, that's true. But,
But there we are. I'm just right. You guys are wrong.
But that's like... leave it. I heard that the space between the last knuckle on your thumb and the tip of your thumb is roughly 1 inch. And I try to use that every once in a while. I'm just like, nah, that's not 1 inch. No way.
That is not 1 inch.
It's not. It's definitely not.
You're lying to me.
Or like,
why are you confusing me more?
Like the length. Here's one that you would relate to. The length of your pinky nail is 1 centimeter, apparently.
No,
I'm just like, what? This doesn't seem accurate.
Probably, yeah. I was just saying, I feel like everybody's pinky nail is different too. So like,
exactly.
How do you?
So using the body measurement
tiny, so
stuff,
it's definitely not.
So what I wonder is like for the measurement of the foot, was that originally based on somebody's foot?
I was told that at some point
you'd have to ask Her Royal Majesty because I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean that because those measurements were all created in England, so that's somewhere. At least I believe so, and that's why
I just choose to believe old English people were kinky fucks, and
But like that's why the only other countries that have use those measurements are the US and Canada, because we were like obviously first, started from English
British settlers
colonization.
And then we cut off from that before they changed it.
So we still, So
and you decided that the only way to separate from them was to add the letter U, to take away the letter U into your word instead of just changing the system.
Right. Yeah. Well,
we've gone off topic.
And calling trousers pants. But anyway.
Well, then what do you call pants? Or what do you, I said
trousers.
What do you refer to as pants is what I should have said.
Is pants even a word that they use?
Yeah.
That you use?
Yeah, like no, here pants means underpants.
Oh, that's right. And I did know that.
You don't need to add the under. We're just
underwear.
But yeah, it's weird these days, like things. I mean, I was raised in America, so I just know both of you guys.
Oh, you were? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so,
that's neat.
So yes, I can force an American accent, but I sound like a teenager, so we say no.
With a nasally accent?
I can force a teenage girl accent, so let's not do that, shall we?
I think everybody can do that. It's like, hey guys, how's it going?
Oh my god, hi.
Wow,
the other day. Yeah, I'm gonna apologize and say, nice talk, guys. Let's go before you hate me.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all a fun time. But yeah, anyways, before we go, can you just plug your stuff? I mean, your channel, anything else you want to?
Sure thing. Okay, so to recap, my name is Jay. I am the writer and editor of Filmi, a YouTube channel where I just talk about my passions, mostly film, sometimes TV, sometimes both. I talk about film theory. I talk about film analysis. Basically, if you have any interest in slightly niche forms of fiction, slightly less known TV shows, slightly less known movies, you will probably like my channel. My main goal is for anyone who watches it to get introduced to something they may not have known existed. So there we go.
All right.
That's about it. That's where we are.
All right.
I don't have a SoundCloud, so.
Don't have a SoundCloud. Yeah, that's probably a good thing. So yeah, anyways, as I said before, you can listen to new episodes of the podcast every single Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. A few things I want to mention before we go. We have recently created a YouTube channel for WABAN specifically. So I'm working on uploading every episode of the podcast up till now, like putting them in video form. And then, it's just a long process. So eventually we'll get caught up to where the podcast is now. But yeah, so the podcast will be available there if you want it on YouTube instead. And then also we are going to be doing our gaming videos there pretty soon. I'm not sure exactly when we'll really start it, but pretty soon probably. So yeah. And also you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is NIMTV. That's NIMTV. I haven't had any new content in a while, but I do plan on really ramping up my content in the coming year. For the next month or so, I want to really plan things out so that way I can hopefully in the new year, my New Year's resolution is going to be to upload at least one new video every month on NIMTV. So hopefully it'll be more like movie related stuff, talking about TV shows, whatever, whatever I want to talk about. So yeah. But yeah, you can check out my channel. There should be a link in the description to that and a link in the description to the WABAN YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on the WABAN YouTube channel, because eventually it'll be up on there, then you can find a link to the podcasts on other platforms as well, like Anchor, Spotify. And there's also a bunch of other platforms you can listen to it, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public. So yeah, you should be able to find it on those and possibly others. I don't know. Anchor just kind of distributes the podcast on multiple different platforms. So yeah. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening to WABAN. Thank you, Jay, for coming on.
My pleasure.
And yeah, I've been Nim.
I'm Cub.
And I'm Phil Mai.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.